The transfer portal closes tonight in college basketball, and it winds down with another big win for Coach Mark Pope and Kentucky. The Wildcats landed sharpshooting Dayton transfer Kobe Brea. As a junior this past season for the Flyers, he led the nation in three-point shooting at nearly 50%, and now he's set to take his dangerous three-point range to Lexington and the SEC next season. Our Matt Norlander took to X, formerly known as Twitter, saying, PSA, the portal closes for everyone in college basketball tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Keep in mind, this is the deadline for portal entry. Players can take however long into May, June, and July to pick where they want to play, but you'll see instances of players popping up in the portal after today. Our 24/7 sports basketball analyst, Travis Branham, and our Matt Norlander joining us now to talk some college basketball transfer portal winners and some losers. And as it stands right now, Matt, I want to focus with you first on the program as a whole. Which program won the portal, and does it have to do with the name we might have just mentioned?
Well, okay, we'll talk a few different ones, but yeah, we're going to lead with Kentucky because that's the most timely. That's the news angle. It also is the one, and Travis can speak to this as well. Kobe Brea has been expected to be at Kentucky for, I would say, about 48 hours or so behind the scenes. Other schools that he had on his initial list, like Duke, Carolina, UConn, and Kansas, had removed them from the recruiting process, which left Kentucky, which put a high priority on Brea to begin with, to be there, and they get him. And that's a huge one because I think that he is going to launch anywhere between 225 and 275 three-pointers next season. He shot 201 last season and was third best in accuracy overall at 49.8%. Kentucky's Reed Shepardo, by the way, had the best shooting percentage coincidentally left in the sport last season. So Kentucky's a big winner. I have to mention Michigan. Evan Maya at evanmaya.com, he ranks Michigan #1 overall in terms of transfer class as of Wednesday afternoon. I have to agree with that. I think Danny Wolf is a key name to know. I think he is among the most important, but he's going to play alongside Vlad Golden, formerly of FAU, amongst the many players. They got a good player from North Texas. Dusty May has done a good job, and I think Michigan, look at this synergy, by the way. Dusty May's going to have a preseason top 25 team because they've got a lot of size there. Like Roddy Gale Jr. is one of the more underrated pickups, I think, of the entire cycle. That's just, it's a huge overhaul by necessity after losing Juwan Howard, but I put Michigan pretty high up there in terms of what they were able to do. And then I have to mention Kansas, preseason #1 team likely. GP Gary Parrish has him #1 in his offseason top 25 and 1. You get Rylan Griffin, a huge three-point threat. AJ Storr was one of the better transfers last season when he left St. John's to Wisconsin. Get to Wisconsin in a second. He goes down there. Don't sleep on Zeke Mayo. Kansas did enough in the portal to validate its status as a viable #1 team in the rankings period. So those are my three biggest winners. But I do want to be clear on this, and I'm going to toss it over to Travis. Just be aware of this. We're going to get more decisions and commitments in the coming hours, days, and weeks. So there are other teams that are going to emerge as we get deeper into May as some of the best winners. We are far from done with players making their decision.
Yes, this is as it stands right now. Thank you for clarifying that. Travis, we're going to look at individual players with you. Which player won by finding their best fit? What do you think?
Yeah, the two that jump out to mind, first and foremost, again, from the news angle, is John L. Davis heading to Arkansas. There's rumors just surrounding the NIL package that was put together for him. But when it comes to what John Calipari needed as he rebuilds this roster, he is getting one of the best transfers and one of the best guards in all of college basketball, a dynamic scorer who can share ball handling responsibilities with incoming five-star freshman Boogie Fland. So the age, the experience, and the ability to just fill it up from all three levels makes for a perfect fit, especially with what we saw John Calipari do at Kentucky this past season. And rejuvenating this high-octane offense should be an instant impact and a guy that will be one of the top guards in the SEC next season. The second that comes to mind is Cade Tyson, who is heading to North Carolina from Belmont. A sharp-shooting wing fills a void out on the perimeter for the Tar Heels as they look to try to get back to a Sweet 16, Elite Eight, and potentially a Final Four again next season. They are bringing back R.J. Davis, also bringing back a facilitating, distributing point guard in Elliot Cadeau. So adding that sharpshooting element, it was crucial for Hubert Davis and this team. So next on board for them is maybe getting a bit more of a physical, more athletic 4-5. And they have a good one coming on campus tomorrow with Cliff Omarui. We are also keeping an eye on Kentucky transfer Adu Thero, and could he ultimately become a Tar Heel?
So many moving pieces. Now we want to look on the flip side. Which programs at this point do you feel like have lost out in the portal? Matt, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, and I want to be clear about this off the top as well. Plenty of time for things to change, but I'm just trying to take stock of some programs that clearly lost guys that they would have preferred not to lose. And so because of that, their status kind of dipped a little bit in April here. So I would go with Wisconsin and Minnesota as two of the bigger ones. Wisconsin, just because I thought AJ Storr was in line to be one of the better players in the Big Ten, but now he's gone and off to Kansas. And then Chucky Hepburn, who's been a key piece there, him entering the portal amongst other players. Wisconsin has lost, I believe, 5 to the portal, and it's got some back, no doubt about it. But will be interesting to see what Greg Gard has once everything settles there for a very big next season. Then Minnesota is unquestionably the news of the day on the opposite end here. Because, you lose Elijah Hawkins. He goes to Texas Tech. That's a big one there. These are, by the way, the 4 names we have here don't include the big name from today, Cam Christie. But I do want to be clear about this because the Christie news broke earlier on Wednesday. He's also in the draft. And in just talking to sources, the expectation is that Christie might be more likely to stick the draft route than stay in the portal. But just keep that in mind. And I wouldn't even say it's impossible he returns to Minnesota, but it's unquestionable that Minnesota has been absolutely dinged so huge by this portal. And it comes down to, and Travis knows this well, it comes down to money. Minnesota has one of the lowest NIL war chests, in the entire Big Ten. And unfortunately for Ben Johnson, he did a really good job last season. Like, he outperformed expectations as a coach. And so because of that, the players become more sought after. They become more valuable. And Minnesota doesn't sit 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th in NIL funding in the Big Ten. You get poached. I will credit Ben Johnson for this. He kept Dawson Garcia on that roster, and Dawson Garcia sets up as a preseason All Big Ten player. So there's still a possibility the Gophers could be a factor next season.
Yeah, Minnesota has absolutely been depleted, lying flat on their back right now due to a knockout blow from this portal, losing 3 key pieces. And as Matt said, Dawson Garcia is expected to come back. But at this point, the roster's been depleted. So you ask yourself, could he be one of these last-second entrants into this portal? We will wait and see. And as he said, the NIL has been the talk around the transfer portal and why all these kids have been leaving the Minnesota Gophers. One source put it to me is Minnesota did a very good job of ramping up their collective. However, the other collectives out there, frankly, dwarfed them, and we're getting double the offers for some of these players. And so here we are. Minnesota was looking to make it back to the NCAA tournament next season with all this talent and these key pieces coming back, but not anymore. But another team that I'm looking at as a loser in this transfer portal is Rutgers. They have 2 big-time freshmen coming in, the number 2 and number 3 overall ranked recruits in the 2024 class with Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. They had a bunch of older guys like Cliff Omarui, like Maywat Mag, a guy, a potential sophomore that was a sharpshooting wing, and Gavin Griffiths and more to enter this portal. And those were key guys that you needed to have in that program, in my opinion, from a culture perspective, and to bring these freshmen along as you try to compete and get back to the NCAA tournament. So if I'm Rutgers and I saw all these guys I've had in my program for years ultimately hit the portal, it's just another gut punch to a team. But they are, again, trying to rebuild. But when you have these 2 incoming star freshmen come, it's just hard to piece it around.
And as we mentioned, there's still plenty of time for all these programs, these players to adjust. Travis Branham and our Matt Norlander, thanks for joining us with their portal winners and losers as of today. All right, do you need more college hoops in your day? Check out the Eye on College Basketball. It is the most entertaining and informative basketball podcast of its time, analyzing the biggest and latest news in the portal with some heavy hitters. That is the latest episode: UConn, Kentucky, Arkansas, Michigan, and more. And then you, of course, stay up to date with all the college sports news, recruiting, transfers, and more at 247sports.com.